yeah, boys and girls, we are back again for another exciting edition of the greatest pop culture podcast for weirdos. I am George, that is Hambone, this is Mai Tai Happy Hour, and we are in your earballs, we are on your ear tube, face tube.
All the tubes.
All the tubes. We are everywhere.
Everywhere.
You need us to be. So excited for another episode of Mai Tai Happy Hour.
Pretty cool.
Hambone, what do you have in store for us today?
So tonight we are going to talk about The Dirt, the Motley Crue biopic now appearing on Netflix.
Biopic.
That's what I said. Anyway, we're also going to talk about the movie Us by Jordan Peele that we saw in theaters this weekend. We're also going to talk about the Avail reunion that seemingly came out of nowhere today. And I'm going to give a post-op on Deadly Class on Sci-Fi, which I just watched the finale of the other night.
I wonder if post-op is similar to biopic. Like, just, I don't know if those are the proper terms we should be using.
I'm going to go with no.
But, you know, biopic. I think I'm not, you should quote that.
I thought it was biopic.
Biopic.
Same.
You said biopic.
I've heard it both ways.
It's okay. I know you you love things always. How are you doing today, Hambone?
I'm fantastic, thank you.
How's your week been for you?
My week has been pretty good. It's it's barreling towards my 40th birthday. We are on the road to WrestleMania. I am going to watch so much professional wrestling next week. It's going to be insane.
Do you are ready for your 40s, right?
Oh,
Have you been stretching?
I have been stretching.
You are where things just break.
Yeah. No, it's been crazy. And also, like, today I cut myself shaving, and it just wouldn't stop bleeding.
Yeah, you're getting there.
What the hell's happening?
I just stopped shaving. Like, I just realized today when I was at work that I had not shaved my neck beard in 2 weeks.
But you look so good with a beard.
I know, and everybody said that like nobody would even know.
Me, not so much.
No, you
I got a little stubbly.
It's now it's gray patch. Like, you
It
almost
is.
are all gray at this point.
I was Hambone the black,
And
now I'm Hambone the gray.
So weird. So weird. I didn't expect you to go gray like that.
Yeah, no, it's when I was younger, it was black and orange, and now it's black and gray.
Well, I haven't broken anything in a few weeks. Things haven't snapped. I'm
Thank
okay.
God.
My rib is about at 100% now.
Finally.
So I can finally have Gabe jump on me. And, it's 41 is interesting.
Yeah.
Nothing dire yet, but, I'm waiting for just my back to go for no reason.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's about my life and where I exist. The corner of is it my knees or my back today? And that's where my apartment is. I will tell you this, though. I am very excited to turn 40. I think when I was younger, I had a weird idea of what turning 40 would be like, and the closer I get to it, I realize it's just another year.
What did 40 look like back then?
What 40 looked like back then, I mean, when I was thinking about it, I was like 27, 28, thinking like there was no tomorrow. And then I got into my 30s, and I was like, well, man, maybe I got to like tighten it up a little bit and start doing things a little differently because I'm 30 now. And I didn't do any of that shit. And then I was like, well, I'm turning 40. Maybe I should like work out all the time, and I should eat better, and I should do all this other stuff. And then I thought, man, I kind of like me just the way I am.
Exactly.
And I said, I just stopped giving a fuck.
Do you, boo?
And I've been doing me, and it's been delightful. And I'm just kind of like, I feel good. Like, I know I'm excited to be with all my friends and my family and the people I love in the next couple weeks. I'm excited to go and drink some beers, eat some steaks, watch some pro wrestling, little rock and roll, little Dungeons and Dragons. I'm doing all the things that I like to do.
And life expectancy is overrated.
Totally.
Exactly. Get your WrestleMania and you can die the next day.
April 8th.
Exactly.
Just get me through the 8th.
Just get through there. I'm just like, I keep telling work, I don't care what we have to do. I am not flying anywhere in or around April 7th because I will be at Giant Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, all kidding aside, I don't want to die anytime soon. I want to live a very, very long life. I actually practice a long and fulfilling postponement of death as one of my hobbies.
I ponder what life would be like when you die.
Don't say that.
I
don't want to think about it.
I don't know why. Recently, I've been thinking about it a lot.
Does it bring a tear to your eye?
No, it's more just like, God, life would be a little bit more boring. I'd have to find a new co-host.
God.
And they're tough to find. I mean, I don't even know. Like, from our current pool of friends, I don't think I could pull a quick co-host.
I'm irreplaceable.
All right, probably Jen Sisko. Like, she'd probably be the only person that can replace you.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome. That's fair.
That's about it, though. There really isn't anyone else. And, I'd have to get that moving because we couldn't skip a week because, the adoring public would be upset.
You would be so disappointed.
Subscribers would drop, so we'd have to do that. And, I could have had Hambone 2.0 here for a little bit, but he's not.
That joke's like a one-trick pony.
Exactly. It's kind of weird.
It was a good trick.
He barely fit in the chair.
I know.
It was difficult. So that's what happens. But it's usually about like every other week. I think, God, life without Hambone's going to suck.
Well, hopefully it doesn't happen anytime soon.
But if it does, April 8th.
I'm like, George.
But April 8th is okay because you will have been to WrestleMania.
Fair enough.
You will see the main event of the man, get her ass kicked by Ronda Rousey.
Don't even get me started, George.
Whoop her ass.
It is not going to happen. Becky Lynch is going to come
You're not
through.
getting the demon. You could stop telling George Collazo that.
We're getting the demon at WrestleMania.
You're not. For what? What match?
He's got an Intercontinental title match.
Against who?
Who do you think?
They've made it? It's announced?
Against Bobby Lashley, who's appearing at the Clifton Commons, Barnes & Noble's WrestleMania weekend.
I'm hard pass there.
Yeah, it's going to be a no.
Not, we can go there. He'll just be sad. We'll watch him with no line.
George.
Harvey. We got to get a picture of Harvey with him. We got to do something about that.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
All right. So before we move on to the dirt, I want to teach you how to make a cocktail.
That's great because I always forget the cocktail.
I've been waiting.
And that's our namesake.
Yeah, it is kind of our thing.
We got to do the banter beforehand. That's kind of like supposed to happen.
It's also our thing. It's what we're known for. So this is the last cocktail for March Madness. High alcohol content drinks. So this is going to be a Volcano Bowl. It says it serves
high octane tiki is what you should have called it from the beginning.
God, that's next year.
High octane tiki.
We were making things up so good as we go along.
You never did a zombie, did you?
I did.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And we're not going to make one on air until we get what we need to get.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this serves 3, but let's be realistic. You're drinking it by yourself. So what this is 6 ounces of ruby red grapefruit juice. Now, I always recommend if you're going to put grapefruit juice in a drink, you want to go ruby red. 2 ounces of freshly squeezed lime juice. This calls for maple syrup as well. So it's 3/4 of an ounce of maple syrup. It didn't specify. I'm going to tell you, if you want to make this cocktail right, you're going to use grade A maple syrup. None of that log cabin shit.
So fresh, like Vermont.
Just put a plug in the tree, turn it, and get that fresh.
Find a hippie, beat them up, go get some Vermont
George,
maple
hippies
syrup.
don't bleed maple syrup. How many times have I told you this? Anyway, 3 ounces of Demerara rum. You're going to use 2 ounces of gold rum, specified as Jamaican. Go for the Appleton. Appleton is a rum you can't go wrong with. You're going to add 1 ounce of Puerto Rican gold rum. I recommend Bacardi 8. You're going to shake it with ice, and you're going to pour it unstrained into a tiki bowl, and you're going to drink that sumbitch by yourself, March Madness style, because you're worth it.
Do you really watch March Madness?
No, I
Do you know
just
anything about basketball?
I know LeBron James, and that's all I know about basketball.
Yeah, I didn't even know the one that I worked with.
Oh yeah, Steph Curry. We know Steph Curry too.
Now I know who he is.
Yeah.
Before that it didn't go too well.
Yeah. I don't watch sports.
Shaquille O'Neal. Shazam.
He's been retired for so long.
He's the only one I know. He had big feet. That's all I know.
I think they have like one of his sneakers at one of the bars in Jersey City. Like it's like legit or something.
I think so. So this week, last Friday, a movie we had been long waiting for, the documentary, the biopic of Motley Crue, The Dirt, based on the amazing pseudo-autobiography written by Neil Strauss of Motley Crue. The Netflix movie came out. And it was like the turd that was shit across the world. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you know what I mean.
It's like a Lifetime movie about cocaine and titties and a band called Motley Crue.
No, it's like a rated R Lifetime movie where the acting and writing is about on par with something you would watch in health ed circa 1994 without the drugs.
It's not good, folks.
Or with the drugs. You know, the ones about doing drugs.
Yes.
Do you know what those were like?
I know.
Kind of like that episode of Different Strokes where like the child molester was involved. Remember that?
Cousin Dudley in the bike shop? You think
yes.
This is a wildly different, that's different plane.
It was a lot like that though.
No? But
that's the vibes I got.
Okay.
I also watched Finding Neverland beforehand, so I think the two kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think the Dudley thing is more likened to Finding Neverland than it is The Dirt.
Did you read The Dirt?
Hell's yeah, I read The Dirt.
The Dirt is hands down the best rock and roll book ever. It's jarring at first because it's kind of written in the first person narrative of each individual member of Motley Crue. It took a sec for me to get into it, but then once I did, I found it to be the greatest. I mean, even if like half the shit's fake, it's insane.
It is crazy.
But the thing is, and the reason why the book works so well, is they tie these crazy situations with real world anecdotes. These people are humans. They have lives. They have families and wives that they just can't balance the rock and roll lifestyle with supporting They have music they truly want to make. You know,
Right.
Nikki Sixx's dream of being Johnny Thunder is a huge part of the book. You really get to see Mick Mars struggle with his disease, but still try to be a rock star, not knowing just how bad it affects him. There's all these great little anecdotes that make you realize that these are humans amongst this crazy stage show. I found the movie cherry picks the best crazy stories and strings them together without a narrative.
It really does.
And that's why it sucks.
It sucks on a lot of levels because I went into it very excited because the guy who made the movie is the guy that made all the Jackass movies. So I heard he was making this, and I, for years, would watch VH1's Behind the Musics. And I've always thought that VH1 Behind the Music is the high bar for telling rock and roll stories, where they're not going to tell you all the real dirt, pun intended. However, they're going to tell you just enough that you get a good idea. And the narratives in all of those episodes was really good. So I'm like, okay, this is the greatest rock and roll book ever written about debauchery and madness and the things that happen when you do so much cocaine and all the heroin. And this guy from Jackass is going to make this movie. This is going to be a perfect movie. How could they fuck this movie up? I'm like, this movie is going to easily be like 2.5 hours long. It was like 1 hour and 48 minutes, bell to bell, right? And there's no narrative to it. It's a movie where it starts off with Tommy Lee eating out a girl at a party until she squirts and Vince Neil's in the bathroom fucking somebody. Very on brand. It was someone whose boyfriend was knocking on the bathroom door for Motley Crue at the time. And then it just kind of goes nowhere from there. Like, it sets the stage really well. And then they kind of just break the fourth wall a bunch and talk about their feelings, and some like debauchery happens in between, and then everything's nice in the end. Oh, wait, how could I forget? They also fucking kill Vince Neil's daughter as you watch her die and say things like, Daddy, don't let them cut me anymore, because she's 4 and she has cancer. Yes, we know Vince Neil's daughter dies in real life, and it's a fucking horrible thing. Didn't fucking need to see it in the Motley Crue movie. It was fucking terrible.
I understand what you mean. That said, that tragedy was such a major point in his life that I think it had to be included. I consider it cheap heat.
Very cheap heat.
I think you could have done it without like showing her dead body on the bed, just lying there for a long shot. This isn't a horror movie.
Yeah. Very poor taste. Done in very poor taste.
Yeah, there's ways they could have done, but also the fact that the child is not really in the film.
Hardly.
Prior to that, so it's more like we just need a moment to pull at the heartstrings, and it so doesn't work. I found that when he killed Raz from I'm blanking on the name of the band right now. Hanoi Rocks. Like, that was a major thing. They didn't even really talk about him like beating the charge. Like, he got away with murder, and they didn't really talk about him
literally vehicular manslaughter.
Yeah, and he wasn't. They didn't show him afraid to go to jail or anything or anything.
You know, I kind of thought that they weren't going to go too deep into that, because, especially once I saw what the runtime was, up until the point where he kills Razzle, not Raz. There you go. It's a perfect Motley Crue movie. Up until that point, I'm watching it. I'm fucking really into this. And I'm like, you know what? I understand they're going to like kind of have to whitewash a lot of stuff. They're going to pull a lot of stuff out. It's a short movie. It's fine. Really great movie. If you get up to the 53-minute mark where Razzle dies, just turn the fucking movie off, because it's all downhill from there.
I disagree. I think the whole movie was broken. I think it would have made a great 6-part miniseries.
Yeah.
And where they could have fleshed out the character development a little bit more. I feel that, a big thing of the book was the making of the music. They literally form a band, come up with a name, have a hokey story about how they came up with the name, which I know is true. They were originally going to be called Christmas. And they go from making their first album instantly to, we already made Shout Out the Devil. Yeah. And now we're going to Home Sweet Home. They don't touch on the music at all.
Hardly touch on the music.
At all. And that is such a big thing. They recreate some of the videos. They do some of the live performances. But there's hardly any semblance of the music. The fact is, and I do believe Vince Neil admits that I don't know if it's Theater of Pain or Girls, Girls, Girls. There's only 2. He says in the movie, we only have 2 singles are any good. I think it was
Theater of Pain.
Theater of Pain, where it's just the cover and
Home Sweet Home.
And Home Sweet Home. But that was a major problem, because it wasn't just that album, but it was also Girls, Girls, Girls. 2 albums that were absolutely terrible to make, horrible. They had a reach to find singles on there. Girls, 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 it was just they made the 2 songs. Again, 2 singles that are worth anything, Kickstart My Heart and Girls, Girls, Girls. I'm sorry, Girls, Girls, Girls and Wild Side.
Wild Side. Kickstart My Heart was the following record, which they showed nothing of. The major comeback of Motley Crue that propelled them to superstardom.
That and Shout Out the Devil. The 2 albums they worked the hardest on and were phenomenal records. It's an afterthought in the movie. John Crosby, who I believe replaced Vince Neil, was in the movie but didn't have a single line. Didn't explain why he came back in the band. Oh, he was sad his daughter died. I didn't really.
Well, that's what happens. Like they go through this whole thing. Nikki Sixx's problem with heroin, I think, lasted a solid 10 minutes of the movie, and then he goes. Suddenly, everything's turning to shit, and Nikki just knocks on Tommy's door. Hey, man, I should have been a better friend to you. And now they're friends again. We need to get the band back together. And they go get Mick. And then they go, find Vince Neil crying in a bar in his beer because, his kid just fucking died. And then we're sorry, man. We are going to hug. And they group hug. And the next thing you know, they're walking on stage. And they're back together again. And everything's fine.
No, yeah, it's so shoehorned. It's so weird. I get the time restraints. I think it should never have been an hour and 45-minute movie to begin with. I think
part 1 should have been an hour and 45 minutes.
The acting, let's put it out there. Ramsey Bolton McMars was
fantastic as McMars.
The best one. Doesn't really get a chance to shine though, but he's the best actor on there. I thought Machine Gun Kelly did a great Tommy Lee, and this is a guy who's not an actor. I thought he was fine playing kind of an aloof, fun dude. And I thought Nikki Sixx and Vince Neil were terrible. The actors who played them were it was so vanilla.
And how do you do the Motley Crue story without getting into the Pam Anderson stuff?
Well, because that, I believe, happened beforehand. From what I heard, the timeline ends right before the Pamela Anderson stuff.
Right. You're right.
And then they'd have to touch on him beating her. And they don't want to go there.
Well, I mean, they weren't afraid to kill a kid, so...
But again, the kid dies.
Yeah,
I mean,
but you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
They showed
you can't really control cancer.
You can't, but you can control how you portray it in a supposedly fun-loving movie about a rock and roll band.
I get it. I just think that, yes, but I don't think the book was fun-loving. I think you're a little off there.
No, the book was pretty fun-loving until... They got off drugs.
They talk about raping people in the book. I'm sorry, you're wrong on that. There is some dark shit in there.
I don't say that there's not any dark shit.
And that they're backpedaling big on now.
They are backpedaling big on that.
And to be fair, I didn't realize that when they wrote the book, when the interviews were done for the book,
right,
most of them had relapsed. And they were actually doing Nikki Sixx admits that he doesn't even remember doing the interviews. Could be a good story, but I think the timeline has been shown that most of them were back on drugs during those interviews.
It's been a long time since those interviews.
And now it's like they kind of, I think they're regretting a little bit. That story in question had been brought up recently. It's he was having sex with a girl, decided to step out for a second, tagged in Tommy Lee, who proceeded to have sex with her while she did not know he was Tommy Lee. And as he was, leaving, it's like, I think we just raped a girl. And they thought that was, funny. That's in the book. No, the book is not fun-loving at all. Like, you need to go back and read it in a fresh pair of eyes.
Honestly, I don't ever want to read it again because I think I prefer remembering it as I'd read it so many years ago after seeing the shitty movie.
Yeah, because 2000 was a different era 19 years ago when that book came out.
And that's the thing, in the end of the movie, they're all friends again, everything's happy. The book, I call it fun-loving because there was a lot of wild rock and roll stories in it, but the book does not paint them as anything but kind of terrible people. Because they're terrible people. If you read this book, especially that story, they're terrible fucking people. The movie, on the other hand, does a thing where it's they were just they've got good hearts. Yeah, they're just kind of wild.
Yeah, I feel the movie actually makes them look more fun-loving. There's just sad situations which happen in life.
Well, fucking heroin abuse is fucking terrible.
Yeah,
but
it is what it is. Nobody should do heroin out there. That shit's...
Don't do it.
That's the bad one. That's the bad one.
Don't do it.
It's not, or any of those opioid stuff. We're coming from a 40-year-old Hambone.
Things are breaking, yo. Either way, don't... You can skip this one, guys.
Yeah, just...
I watched it, so you don't have to. You're welcome.
You're talking about the dirt. I was talking about heroin.
Same.
Do you know what's really sad?
I've never done heroin.
They didn't go into
drugs.
They didn't go into Tommy Lee quitting to start a rap rock career.
There's so many missed opportunities.
I know that was I was very sad about that, even though that wasn't in the book either.
Don't do drugs, kids.
I agree. I think so. I didn't mind spending I didn't want those 2 hours back. I actually did find this to be almost hokey and a hilarious sort of way. If you want one of those movies, this does work in that regard. If you're looking for a good movie taking advantage of the great source material, you're not going to get it here.
Definitely not. Well, speaking of a good movie, though, why don't we talk about the one we saw this weekend?
So Hambone finally went to a movie with me.
I go to movies with you, George.
It is so hard to get him to go to. He'll go with movies and concerts with everybody. Me, never get an invite. Ever. Oh. This time I forced him. I think I shamed him into going to see Us.
You did not shame me into going to see Us.
And we saw Us.
I had to check my calendar, and we went to the movies together. And we went to Karasotes.
Which is the best movie theater.
It really is.
That and Alamo, Brooklyn. I will put those two as the 2 best movie theaters in the world.
Fantastic movie-going experience.
And we saw Us.
We did.
Jordan Peele's new horror movie.
So good.
Follow on to Get Out.
Yes.
And now we want to put it out there. I will do it. We are doing a spoiler-free review. Do not worry about anything.
We've been working on this for days.
I'm sober. I might be tired, though, so I don't know. But we're going to try. I came up with like themes for me to riddle you with so that you can talk in a non-spoiler way.
All right, go for it.
And, first of all, I just want to also let you know that we got to set up the movie a little bit.
So the movie is about a family that goes on vacation. And while they're on vacation, they come across their doppelgangers who immediately try to murder them.
And yes, there is a little more deepness here. They are an upper middle class black family,
yes,
which is like a very rare breed of character in a movie.
Right.
And I think he did that purposefully. I think he tried to, whereas Get Out was very racially motivated. Like
yes,
the theme was very racial,
yes,
and it worked. He didn't want to do that again. And he's like, I want me a straight up horror movie. I just want the family to be black because that's a rare thing in Hollywood these days.
Right.
And again, great job. They are very much trying to keep up with the Joneses. They're one of those types of families where like, I need to do as good as my next door neighbor. And there's a lot of that comedy where with the husband, they meet up with their doppelgangers through a series of events and maybe some previous flashbacks. We find out that there are doppelgangers that come to get them, and hilarity ensues.
Wackiness ensues.
And by that, I mean gore.
Lots of gore.
So let's put it out there. This is a true horror movie, whereas I found Get Out was more of a thriller.
Like a psychological thriller.
This one, there is gore. Not in the scary sort of way. I am very, very anti-shock scare. I hate pop-up scares. I hate pop-out scares.
Very few in this movie.
There are very few, if any. I think there's only the owl at the beginning, and that's about it.
There was 2.
Yeah, very, very little. It's more creep out factor. It's slow burn. It is, exactly what you're getting.
It's also psychological as well. Not as deeply psychological as Get Out.
And there is more to scratch the surface that we can't really get into.
Yeah.
And it is definitely a thinking man's movie. If you're going in for just a dumb horror movie, you're not going to get it here, which is what I love, which is why I think movies like The Conjuring, movies like Hereditary, movies like Get Out and I'm blanking on a million other ones right now, Homebound, they're horror, pseudo-horror comedy, Hereditary is not horror comedy, that are way more thinking man's horror, and that's what's great. I think we did a past episode on smart horror movies. This is definitely one of those.
So what I like about it is this. In horror, in anything, comedy, there's nothing new under the sun. At this point, 2019, everything has been done. Within reason, everything's been done. The thing I think that makes this movie great is that you kind of know some of the beats as they're happening. You kind of figure some things out as you go. It's just so well done that you don't care because you're really fully immersed in the world, and it kind of pushes you to the point where you think there's going to be a jump scare, and like someone else would have went for the cheap shot. They don't. And so you're constantly in a state of discomfort watching this movie because you're expecting certain things to happen. Because if you're a person who watches horror movies, you are trained to know it's coming, and it never actually comes.
I felt that the storytelling here was masterful. It's almost like an artist painting on a canvas. It is so well done. Everything is thought out. Everything is meticulous. I found that even though it's very smart, I find too many smart artsy movies end with a lot of what exactly happening? What's the meaning of life? Blah blah blah. I hate those ones where it's too.
He lays it right out for you.
He lays it out to you, yet still leaves so much on the table.
Yeah.
But I don't mind that he left stuff on the table for us to think about, and Go ahead, you were saying?
I think he finds the perfect balance between smart and highbrow. Because that's a problem that I find in a lot of horror is, there's the old joke, is like it's too much artsy, not enough fartsy. He finds the line, he walks that line, and it's great.
Yeah, if you're going in thinking this movie is funny games, it's not.
No.
It's not that type of movie. If it's not Hush, it's not, even though it is intruders breaking into your home and they happen to be doppelgangers, it's not that type of movie. It's also hilarious. There are moments in there that are laugh out loud funny. The father, who is this very large, muscular, like almost like this is a guy who you would see as a protector. They flip the switch and he's like fun loving. He's like Art, our neighbor. He reminded me a lot of Art.
Yeah.
Fun loving, like friend, like cool dad type who is like, I just bought a boat. I don't know how to drive a boat. Like there is funny stuff in there that really help let this movie breathe. The main character I feel is actually the mom. I feel she is, I'm going to screw up her name. It's Lupita Nyong'o. Is the final O silent?
You have to forgive me. I'm very bad at saying stuff. She is exceptional everything that she's in.
She also is the hero in the movie.
Yes.
She is the focal point, and that's different too. I felt the artistic approach to cinematography. They do, my whole thing on why I hate DC movies is they rely too much on CG and shooting in the dark to make it so you can't see the strings being pulled.
Oh yeah, pause for a second. And fuck you, Zack Snyder. Don't tell me, get over Batman killing people. You made a bad movie. Own it. Anywho, go on.
Revisionist problems there. Anyway, I found a lot of the horror is done in daylight.
Yeah.
And the scenes that are done at night, it's not there to cover. It's more to add creep factor.
Yes.
I can tell you this much. As a photographer who has photographed a lot of multicultural people, I photographed a lot of black couples as well as white people. It is very challenging to do white and black, doing black against black. Shooting exposure for a black person, especially a dark-skinned black person in a dark environment, is challenging. You gotta know what you do. You gotta know how to light well. The way they were able to light her in some of those dark scenes was incredible, and to see her face emote in those type of environments is insane. That goes to the whole family, but particularly her.
He's a master filmmaker, and it's rare to be able to say that with such confidence. And I know like people throw words like genius and master around a lot, and it literally means shit. The words are devalued at this point. That said, everything that he's done in the two movies that he's made, he gets it. Like he gets horror. He gets, psychological horror. He gets subtle horror. He gets, let's not forget he was in Key and Peele, right? He was on Mad TV. So he does a thing similar to what Seth MacFarlane does on the Orville, where Seth MacFarlane, known for Family Guy, known for American Dad, known for all the dick and fart jokes, still manages to input levity into the shows that are, in Seth MacFarlane's case, serious sci-fi, in Jordan Peele's case, a very dark psychological horror movie, and it lands, and it doesn't take you out of it. Like, a lot of times in the Marvel movies and the recent Star Wars movies, they'll tell a joke, and it's a little too... Oh God, fuck! Now I was like really into the Starfight, and now it just doesn't land.
You see, I think
he does a great job with it.
I think it's Joss Whedon. I think Joss Whedon really changed the game by taking very intense action and dark comedy and infusing it with funny. I think the Buffy the Vampire Slayer really laid the groundwork for that.
Right. What I'm saying is not many people are good at that.
No.
And these two dudes are great at it.
But I think it's from the same school of thought.
Definitely the same school of thought. I was like, I want to see it again, even though I understand everything.
You have to see it again.
I'm going to see it again. I want to support this movie. I really think that if you love horror movies, he's going to be doing The Twilight Zone, right? He is doing the reboot of The Twilight Zone.
I did not know that.
I am so fucking excited for The Twilight Zone now, knowing that he is the guy at the helm of it.
I just hope he doesn't get a little burnt out with that. I would have rather see him do one episode of Dark Mirror. Black Mirror? Dark Mirror.
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror. I think it's insane that Jordan Peele is pretty much solidified his place in the pantheon of great horror directors with two movies.
Yeah.
2 movies changed the game.
Completely.
And now everybody has to
and this is his second movie.
That's why I said
the
2
sophomore
movies.
slump is normally like, where people drop the ball a little bit. He elevated it.
So I think it's fair we have to compare a little bit of Get Out, but they are completely different movies. Again, Get Out was very hit the nail over the head with the hammer, sledgehammer even, on race relations. I mean, that movie, the white people were the evil people who were hypnotizing black people into being their slaves. I mean, there was really no other. I mean, that was like, there we go, that's it. And he did a great job with it. That didn't make you feel uncomfortable, like as a white person watching it. I mean, it was a very well done story. That was just like, this is race relations today in like, everywhere. Trump's America.
Yeah.
This one, I think, focused a little more on politics. I think this is a story more about how there are segments of unheard of, unspoken for segments of our population who can't get their voice across, be it like the Mexican population right now and the situations with the wall and just all this about how there are so many people here who have their lives being dictated by rich white men and have no say in the matter, or afraid to have a say. And I think it hits on that, and I think that's definitely more of a multicultural thing. Again, he made the main characters black, but the general principle, and you learn more as you get into the story. It is truly a story about them versus us, and us versus them.
I'm going to go see it again next week on my birthday week off.
Yeah,
fucking great. Go see it.
I absolutely think you should. I also think as far as comparing it to Get Out, this one, just the brutality level's way higher.
Oh yeah,
like legit. It is the worst thing in that movie is the very end of Get Out gets a little super violent, ultra violent.
But this has to.
Yeah, it has to.
The way the story is told, it has to. And that said, it never goes too far.
Mm-hmm. I agree. What, this one?
This one.
I mean, it goes as far as it needs to go.
Yes.
It has to go. I mean, they are surviving for their life.
Yeah.
And their doppelgangers are strong.
They are very
More
strong.
because they just don't know. They don't have any rational thought. They don't have
Yeah.
any reason. They are just there to murder. I thought of it almost like a zombie movie.
Yeah.
I mean, given the theme and once you dig in and the when you find out the truth behind everything, it's not a zombie movie, but I felt a little bit of a zombie movie. You have to escape these people that are there to kill you, and they just happen to look at like you. Crazy. And I also loved, again, the main actress, Lupita, unbelievable. She has to play two people. I mean, everybody's got to play their doppelganger too. She's the only one that can speak in this, that speaks, and just being able to really create two different characters that look like you, both in facial expressions and the way she speaks.
Completely different facial expressions.
Completely different vocal styles. So nuts. So well done.
So good.
I also like the boy, Evan Alex plays him.
Yes.
It's great because I feel like he always kind of knows what's happening.
He does, but he's a younger kid. However, he does the thing that they do. He doesn't do the thing that they do in every other movie where the younger kid who kind of knows what's going on, who's hip to it, is like too smart for their own good and kind of ruins the movie because it's like, okay, I get it. You are smarter than you should be, but you don't know everything. Like, I think it's perfect balance.
Yeah, and his doppelganger is amazing too. It is such a great movie. I recommend it to anybody. I recommend people who are into horror and aren't. If you're not into gore, it might be a little tough on you, but I definitely think this is not a movie where you feel icky afterwards.
No.
I mean, feel bad technically, yes, but I actually would love a sequel. Not even a sequel. I would love a short just to see where we are in the world after this, like where else we are in the world, because I think it really, I don't know. I just want to see where that, what happens next, where the family goes next. We don't know which family or what variation of them. I just want to see what happens next.
Got it.
And, more like, I feel like it should be like, I want to turn out like The Walking Dead, where I could just like keep following them along.
Agreed.
Speaking of which, The Walking Dead.
Holy shit.
We called last week's episode the best episode ever of Walking Dead, and this week they came back again with another amazing episode.
We always say, just when we're out, they find a way to pull us back in.
I've been out for a while.
He was on, and I was like, nothing really else going on. I was like, you know what? Last week's episode was really, really good. I will watch this week's episode. And it was The Calm Before, and was the name of the episode. Holy shit! Like, at this point in the show, especially having replaced so many of the main characters and the original characters, it is so much better than it has any right to be.
But I think that's the reason why. I think you get sick of Mulder and Scully for eight seasons. You need something new,
agree.
but it's tougher when there's no real easy way to remove the characters.
Right.
I think here by killing characters, you're forced to keep a little fresh. Also, the stories can keep going. I've read somewhere that the big bad obviously has to change regularly, and sometimes they get a little too formulaic with the big bad.
Right.
The governor, the new guy.
Negan.
You know, now it's the Alpha and Omega, or Alpha and Beta. I'm not sure which one. I enjoyed it so much, I went and ordered the book that was inspired by it.
Cool.
So, I look, if you're a lapsed Walking Dead fan, you might want to start at the beginning of this season.
I would. I'm actually looking forward to the finale of this season, and I'm confident they're not going to blow it because these last 2 episodes were like amazing.
And that's also the deal with them constantly changing showrunners. You know, the problem there is you don't know what you're going to get every time, but you're always going to get fresh ideas, good or bad. The Walking Dead's good right now. Don't know what to tell you. I wasn't going to talk about The Walking Dead this season. We killed the segment.
Completely.
We're like, we're not going to follow along, but shit, there we are.
Got us again, sons of bitches.
So, big news today in the punk rock world.
Holy shit snacks.
It came out this morning that Avail is going to do a reunion show in Richmond, Virginia, their hometown, and it was out of left field. The band has long stated that they will never get back together again. Tim Parry has specifically said that if they do get back together again, it's not going to be with him in the band.
Right.
And he, you know, no real reason. I never was quite sure why they broke up. They were a band that was very influential in the mid to late 90s, very much a Southern hardcore band, something that doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
There was a very Dixie-inspired hardcore, melodic, but also very much of the 90s type music.
Yeah.
I went out and listened to Over the James say, I'm like, God, this is kind of dated, but I also understand why this band was very important. They were known for having some of the most aggressive, intense, violent, crazy shows I'd ever been to.
Insane for a band that's so like melodic and sing-song.
Exactly. Them, Clutch, and Mighty Mighty Boss Tones were the 3 most, the only shows I would go to where I was frightened.
Yeah.
And I had seen them multiple times and always left with injuries from their show. It's very sad because I don't have a really good photo. I don't have too many photographic images of them because I couldn't shoot at their shows. No barricade, nowhere to shoot from. Usually using point and shoots and like disposable cameras that I had at the time. Very tough to shoot Avail. So anyway, long story short, this morning they announced that they will be doing that. They're not reuniting for Riot Fest or for Coachella.
They're doing it in their hometown for the 21st anniversary of Over the James.
Yes.
From 1998.
They did an interview late today with Noisy, which I believe is Vice Magazine's music magazine. Mm-hmm. Tim Parry taught them. Noisy pointed out that last time they did an interview, he swore they would never get back together. Yeah. You gotta always be careful when you say that, band. You gotta always leave that a little open-ended. You know, don't even sign the contracts, Motley Crue. Like, just, you know, it's never good. Don't Ric Flair it.
Yeah, don't Ric Flair it.
Now, Avail, I interviewed Tim Parry right before the Front Porches album came out. I think it was their second to last album. And he had told me at the time they lost a member because they had a kid and they wanted to leave the band. The band was working full-time jobs. It was getting kind of tougher I interviewed him and talked to him a little bit about Napster at the time. I think that was
wow, yeah.
And bands were very heated about Napster. You can find out. I recently posted on Cult of George. I believe it is up there. Look up my Tim Parry Avail interview. But it sounded like he was winding down even at that point. And soon afterwards, I didn't know if it was like a hiatus or they announced that the band was not going to do anything anymore. And they never said, I don't think they ever said we're breaking up. They just like ended the band.
Yeah, it wasn't.
There wasn't a press release.
Dramatic.
They just stopped, and then Tim Parry started going hard with his folk music.
Right.
He went big on the folk music. In the interview, he talks about how for 12 years now, whoever it's been, I mean, he's made his money. He can work full time now just doing his folk music,
which is awesome. Good for you, dude.
It's so nuts, and I've never been a big fan of it because it's a little more too on the countryside.
Right.
I prefer my like folksy old man punk stuff to be more of the Chuck Reagan side of things, Frank Turner, a little less of the uber outlaw country stuff, but he's done great with it. And he said in the interview that he pulled on somewhere on the internet, he read that last year was the 20th anniversary of Over the James, and he forgot about it. So it's the 20th anniversary. He just found out about the 20th anniversary on the 21st. Decided to bust out the record, played it for his young daughters, and they like were loving it. They're like, "Oh, it's your angry band," and they were just like cute about it. And he played again, and they started singing along to the songs they had only heard twice. And he's like, "Oh, there's something to be said about this album being a great song album."
You know, man, there is nothing to get a band back together like little kids.
I mean, that's the reason so many wrestlers come back into it. Like Shawn Michaels came back his second time because his kids wanted to see him wrestle.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about that. So he called up Bo, I don't know what his real name goes by.
Let's go with it.
And he's, who I believe is like their dancer. He's kind of like the guy from the My Boston's. They have one of those, like backup singer / dancing guy. Hype man.
Hype man. Yeah.
And he goes, look, we'll do it. Like, I'd be up for it. And they called up the rest of the band. And this is where I think there was an us versus them mentality in that. And that might be the breakup. They're like, hey, you guys get into a studio, figure this shit out. I want nothing to do with like booking, being your manager, any of the back end shit. I want you to tell me that we can do this, and then we'll do it. And then the band on their own got together without the singers to find out if they could still play the songs, because they didn't want to just sit there while the singer was just like twiddling his thumbs.
Yeah.
While they tried to figure out how the fuck what chords are what.
In fairness, when you get back together with a band for the first time, no matter what scale, no matter what level you're on, the most harrowing thing is, oh shit, how do we play these songs? I mean, we did like a Leathermouth thing where I did the tour with Leathermouth, and we were going to come back around for like one more thing, and we had to sit there and be like, well, shit, how do we play these songs? It had been like a while. We had to go on the internet and look for tabs that kids had made.
So I was actually going to ask
thanks, guys.
I was going to ask the question, not saying anything about anything, but like, let's say Pensy Prek got back together again tomorrow. Could you play those songs?
I could play the songs.
Really?
Yeah, I could.
Because you wrote them?
I wrote the fucking things. I wrote them from my heart.
I mean, I don't know how simple they are, but I was just like, is that something
there's a couple things that I'd have to listen to get again. However, I think for the most part, most of Heartbreak in stereo, I could probably play from memory. Some of the later stuff that we did, I would need to hear the songs because it's not as, even though it was later, it's not as fresh for me because there's some stuff I was doing some really weird outside of my comfort zone shit, but yeah, I could figure it out. But
there he goes. Well, Avail, turns out they were able to figure it out too. I heard for the most part, and then they called the singers in and they did it, and they were like, oh, we sound awesome. Okay, let's do it. They have left it open-ended about what else they could do.
Right.
Would love to see a New York show. They're doing a 1,500 seat venue.
Well, here's the thing. Avail is one of the most beloved bands in the New Jersey punk scene that's actually not from New Jersey. They are so beloved.
And who's the other one?
What's that?
Clutch. Who's from Maryland.
Yeah, of all bands. But that's the thing. Like when this popped up today, the pure joy and exuberation from my friends on their Instagram, their Facebooks, and their Twitters over Avail getting back together. Now, remember, just a couple years back, Jawbreaker got back together, and people were excited about Jawbreaker getting back together. The difference is this. Jawbreaker gets back together. People are really excited about it, but for the most part, most of the people I know who saw Jawbreaker when they got back never saw Jawbreaker. So it's something that they never had seen before. Like the Pixies. When Avail announces they're getting back together, it's the joy that comes from the place of this is something I thought I would never see again, and it takes you back to moments that you actually had with the band. So I'm so happy for everybody.
I'm curious about the crowd because bands like Jawbreaker and more so the Pixies ended up getting a huge following after the fact.
Right.
When we mentioned to Frank, like most of the people on my YouTube page that talk about the video are people that weren't born yet. There is something to be said about that. I don't know if Avail has that for two reasons. Hear me out.
I'm listening.
First of all, their music was not lost, but it was trapped in Lookout for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Like Fat Records I don't know how that was dealing. I don't know if Fat Records bought it out or if someone has it, but there was tough to get their music for a while. And then they just said it too. The first thing they did today was open up a new shop. The last t-shirt they said they sold was at the last Avail show.
Yeah.
That was the last time they sold a shirt. So there isn't like cool Avail shirts out there, like a Hot Topic where kids for 12 years now could have been buying. So I think I am a little curious whether there is a new generation that discovered them that have been pining for this.
I'm going to go with no, and I'm not saying this to be a dick.
No, but it's true. I mean, that's why I brought it up.
I don't think that Avail just kind of went away. They went away, and no one's really talked about them. Like, people talked about Jawbreaker till the cows came home. Magazines talk about the masterpieces that were their albums, alternative press, Dear You, all that shit. But, like, Avail just kind of disappeared. And by not having consistent access to the music, it's just like I remember a band that was so beloved around here around the same time was Discount, right? Mm-hmm. But Discount's music doesn't really exist anywhere.
Nope.
So it's kind of like lost to time. I think that they're not going to have any trouble selling out that venue. That said, most of the people from that venue will probably be from New Jersey because everyone's going to go down there just to be with this band again. And I hope they do a New York show. I saw them with Propaganda a couple times, and they were...
I've never seen Propaganda.
You're not missing much. They're fantastic. Avail, not Propaganda. And they were great.
Yeah,
such a good band.
My big regret was the last time I could have seen them, I went to see them. It was, is your band the Leathermouth or is it Leatherface?
Leathermouth is mine. Leatherface is a different band.
Yeah, the famous band is Leatherface.
Yes.
So I saw Leatherface reunite with Snapcase and Avail at the Wetlands. And I was so beat up. There was so little room to breathe. Smoking was in full effect at the time. I could not... I was so miserable that I think I split after the second Avail song. Like, it was just, and I don't tap out of shows.
No, you do not.
But that was such, and I was there from the very beginning. There was nowhere to stand. There was nowhere to get like a spot. There was nowhere to, it was so overpacked. It was so hot. I was so dehydrated and just miserable.
I think I got a cold every time I went to Wetlands. It is just a fucking petri dish. The Wetlands black lung.
And then with the smoke and just, it was bad. And I regretted that because it was my last chance to actually photograph them. But I shot the first two bands. I think Snapcase, like, that was just insane too. And I'm just like, I can't. Like, at the time, I was working like full-time jobs, going to college full-time, and like shooting bands every night. And I think I was just like, yep, I can't do this.
Yeah, it's a moment.
But then I never got to see them again. I saw them with Ann Beretta at Maxwell's before that. I had seen them a whole bunch of times. They were on the Warped Tour. We had seen them a lot. But yeah, that was a little bit of a regret because I heard that was a legendary show. Anyway, so Avail, let's see what happens. I'm excited. I actually pondered for a half a second, like, can I get down there? I'm like, oh God, I'm too old to like do this. Let me just hope they do a New York show.
Yeah, you know what? I think if I would rather leave that spot for someone who wants to drive to Virginia to see them.
Yeah, like Jawbreaker. I know my friends flew out to Chicago and Riot Fest. They had a great time, but they could have just seen it again.
Yeah, they're touring again. Though,
I think they were played like this week.
They just played this weekend.
Yeah,
and actually they're in Philly tonight.
Yeah. But check out Avail if you haven't before. If you're interested in that type of music, if you love bands like the Bouncing Souls and bands like, I don't even know what to compare them to. I think Hot Water Music, I guess, bands like that, I think are a perfect comparison. I think they influenced a lot of the bands that came out after that.
It's funny because in New Jersey, I always kind of thought it was like Avail was coming up, and then they just kind of like tagged in Hot Water Music and then disappeared.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's very fair. And Against Me and some bands like that, I think were a lot of the subtle influences are from bands like Avail.
Well, good for you guys getting back together and hanging out with your friends.
So you stuck it out.
Did
you finished that show? The show that I think we ranked as the lowest worth watching of the trilogy of teen superhero but not superhero in schools academy type movies, along with Umbrella Academy
and Doom Patrol
and Doom Patrol. I didn't continue past the two episodes I watched. You did. What show was this?
It was Deadly Class on Sci-Fi. I watched all 10 episodes.
Was it good?
And I loved it.
Should I continue watching it?
I think you should. I think it's something that it doesn't warrant you putting it as a priority, but it's one of those things that once you get to it, you're going to enjoy it.
Like Badlands.
Kind of like Badlands, yeah. I really did enjoy it. I thought the season wrapped up very well. It hasn't been announced for another season. I really hope it gets another season because obviously it ends on a cliffhanger. However, as far as storytelling goes, I think they do a great job with it. I think they do a very great job with all the characters in it. And, it's a teen superhero, not superhero TV show. And, there's love triangles and there's feelings and there's they're assassins, but it's cool. It just kind of, the story really starts picking up towards the end, and now you want to see where it goes. So I definitely recommend it. I definitely had a lot of fun watching it, and I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't want to spoil the ending because it's really good.
I made it to episode 2 of Doom Patrol and realized I needed to wait till they were all available and just binge it.
You were doing the right thing.
Because I was so lost. The second episode kind of goes all over the place. The first episode's all over the place. Very good. It's just I need to hit a few of them at the same time to really absorb it.
So the way I think it's best viewed is in 3 episode chunks.
Doom Patrol.
And I tell you, there is, I want to say it's either episodes 4 and 5 or 5 and 6 is a 2-parter. So I would do it. I would watch the first 3 episodes. I'd watch 4, 5, and 6, and then I'd wait for 3 more episodes because it's 13 episodes for the season. So if you watch it in 3 episode chunks, I feel like it's a more satisfying show. It's great. I think it's the best of the 3 shows of Umbrella Academy, of Deadly Class, Doom Patrol. It is still the best of the 3. However, it's interesting because I have to watch Doom Patrol and Deadly Class in real time. Whereas Umbrella Academy, I just got to absorb it once because it's Netflix, and you know how I do with Netflix. Doom Patrol, though, is a better show if you watch it in 3 episode chunks.
I mean, the acting on that's incredible too.
I will
backpedal a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't think we talked about it, but I really did enjoy Umbrella Academy at the end.
You did.
I think it gets significantly better. So Umbrella Academy actually gets better as you watch every episode.
Yeah.
Every episode builds on the next. The acting gets better. I think they did a very good job, and by the end, I was sucked in. They cliffhangered the end though, so they better greenlight a season 2 for that. I was not expecting that.
Netflix. Yeah. I mean, there are 3 different ways to watch the shows. Deadly Class is best watched week after week. Umbrella Academy is best watched one shot. Doom Patrol, 3 episode clips.
I was going to go buy the Umbrella Academy books. I enjoyed it so much, but I heard from a few people that it really is a hard young teen book, and I hear the TV show's better than the book.
They're 2 different experiences. They are 2 different experiences because they definitely tightened some stuff up and adjusted some stuff to make it work as a episodic TV series. So I recommend you read the book. I just, you got to know it's a little bit of a different experience.
Yeah, I heard it's very young adult.
I think that the book is actually weirder than the TV show. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll check that out. One more thing you want to touch about it. What else?
So I'm super bummed. After soon to be 15 seasons, Supernatural, one of my favorite TV shows of all time, is calling it a day. And they're calling it a day on their own terms. So last week they announced, because they are wrapping up with just a few episodes left of season 14, that season 15 will be their last. And it's going to be a little bit of a shorter season. And I had mixed feelings about it at first because this is a show that I started watching from the moment it premiered in 2005. So I've been watching this show now for almost 15 years, which is fucking crazy when you think about it. Like when you think about, how people watch TV shows and maybe like Lost went like 7 seasons, but it goes 7 seasons over the course of 8 years maybe, tops. I've been watching the same TV program for 15 years.
Was it consistently good? I don't think I could do that.
So it's a perfect TV show if you watch up until I think season 5, because up to season 5, when the original showrunner Eric Kripke leaves, you could end the story there. Like you could actually end the story with what happens in the end of season 5 and just call it a day. Perfect TV series, except for episode I think 8 of season 1 called Bugs. Not good. But then they keep going. And it's you're kind of off put by trying to get back into it after the way that it ends in season 5. But then you start really getting into it. Then they do a couple weird seasons where some people fell off of it because, to be honest, at that point now you're reaching the 7th season and you're like, well, shit, I've been watching this show now for 7 years. And where are they going with this? And then they just write the ship from season 8 on. It gets amazing. It gets absolutely amazing. And even their missteps, you just don't care about because you know there's something better waiting around the next episode. So I'm kind of heartbroken over the show ending at 15 years, but at the same time, I'm good with it. Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles always said that they were going to do the show until the fans didn't want to do it anymore. And then this year, I don't know why they decided it was the end, but they decided it was the end. And after 15 years, I think it's okay to end the show. And I really have a feeling that they're going to go balls to the wall to end the show right, which is something that you also don't get on a lot of shows that you love. You also don't get the ending that you want or the ending you think the show deserves because shows just get canceled or they're running out of money and they just got to kind of go home on it. So I am happy that they're ending it on their terms. I'm bummed that after this, it's going to be it. But I know I'm going to be watching it on reruns forever because it's my favorite show.
Well, that wraps up a stellar episode of Mai Tai Happy Hour. If I say so myself, we can go watch SmackDown now. I'm all excited.
Yay.
And next week we will be returning with our giant WrestleMania preview. If you don't like wrestling, well, you might have to skip the next episode because it is WrestleMania week. We are going into a WrestleMania hard. Hambo's going to map out his plan of attack for the whole week.
Stay hydrated,
I
Wesley.
will not because I have too much work to do.
You got to work.
But, we're going to go through our favorite matches, what we're most excited about. Hambo's going to talk about how we're going to airlift into Giant Stadium because it's going to be 17-plus matches.
I might have to jump out of a plane.
Not including the pre-show, and Route 3 gridlock is going to be real. So get ready for that. We got a big supersized episode. We'll see if we can get some guests on there, see if we can find Harvey, see if we can find Don Becker, see if we can go make this a supersized episode. Woo! I'm super excited for it.
Me too.
Hambone, can you tell me how the kids can reach you?
You can find me on the Twitter at Hambreaker, where I'm tweeting mostly about professional wrestling, cute animals, and I've been finding some really great animal tweets as of late. The podcast I produce in Dungeons & Dragons. You can also find me on Instagram at Hambreaker, and if you want to see my adventures during my birthday week, that's the place that you're going to find me at John Hambone McGuire on Instagram. George, where can the kids find you?
The kids can reach me at... I hit the wrong button.
See them driven before you, they hear the lamentation of their women.
I just threw it all in there because why not? You can reach me at GLK Creative on Instagram. I've done a very good job trying to get my archive up. I'm really getting there.
Very exciting.
I'm working so hard on it. I've gone through 2008. I'm 2009 now.
Nice.
And slowly posting that. Once it's done, I can actually start putting posts up on cultofgeorge.com, which is where you should also check me out. On Twitter, I'm at GLK Creative as well, where you can see me writing about wrestling and phones and phones and lots of phones. There's some wrestling and some punk rock.
Lots of good punk rock, some good photos.
Mostly phones.
Picture to Gabe.
Yeah, you can also find all the back episodes of Mai Tai Happy Hour at maitaitv.com. Definitely rate, review, and subscribe. Download the show wherever you get your podcasts. Please recommend this to everybody. I had 3 people tell me they signed up this week just for my job, and I didn't know who they were. That was a little strange.
Hopefully not HR.
That's always strange. Anyway, I am George. This is Hambone. Take us out, Hambone.
Everybody remember, be nice. Aloha.
Перебиты, поломаны крылья, серой болью всю душу свело.
I waited the whole 10 seconds.